Hey, Angela, right on time. Welcome, everybody. It is Thursday night. We are here with the incredible Dr. Tara Urson. How are you tonight?
Pretty good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thank you for being here and accepting our invitation. I'm going to start, guys, by introducing Dr. Tara, and we have Angela with us. Angela, you got my name. Yeah, I know she logged in our Airway Circle account, so we have to run out. Oh, you're wearing the same shirt. So Angela is making us Airway Circle shirts. If you guys are interested, DM her. Thank you, Angela. Awesome. Alrighty, Dr. Tara Urson never imagined that less than 10 years out of dental school, teeth would no longer be her focus. Instead, tongues, jaws, and airways have become her passion. She was introduced to tongue tie while attending La Leche League meetings with her first child. As time went on, she began to realize how ties negatively impacted breastfeeding and so much more. Over the last 5 years, Dr. Tara has completed over 500 hours of continuing education in the areas of ties, function, airway, and interceptive orthodontics. In 2018, she started Smart Mouth, a team-based practice dedicated to all things airway and tongue function. In 2021, she completed the process to become an international board certified lactation consultant. My goodness, congratulations. That is amazing. I love the name of your practice. And for you to go back and get your IBCLC, that is incredible. I know how hard it is and how much work it goes into getting that also on top of everything else you do. So what did we miss? Say hello to everybody.
Thank you. That about sums it up. I think the main thing is that my journey from just doing dentistry to doing what I'm doing now was super organic. And like I said, I never really expected it to be this way, but it's always fun when you can follow your passion. So I'm definitely grateful that I've had that privilege to be able to switch gears like that.
Perfect. That is amazing. And it's people don't really realize how much what we do in dentistry it's related to breastfeeding, how everything starts in orofacial development. So whenever you start learning that portion of it, it's like, oh my goodness, how many patients have we seen? Especially if you're a provider that sees children. That it starts from the beginning, like Dr. Martha always says, from the first breath, first beginnings. It is incredible whenever you open your eyes to this new way of looking at craniofacial development. Breastfeeding is right there with it. So pretty cool.
I think it's really important to point out too, though, that it's happening even before birth. So the baby comes out. If there's dysfunction, it's not something that we can just kind of snap our fingers and fix because they've been using that function probably around 6 months.
That is so interesting that you say that. And some people might not understand exactly what we're talking about. I have heard so many moms say, oh, my child was sucking their thumb in the womb. They have, a video or an image of them inside my belly and they were sucking the thumb. All babies do that. That is natural development. That doesn't mean they're going to be thumb suckers when they come out. And that doesn't mean that they already have an airway problem, because a lot of people, you guys know that a lot of thumb sucking could be an airway issue or it could not. It depends. But can you go a little bit into this I'm going to call it pre-birth, before the child is born? What are things that you think could affect their development in the womb?
Well, if we're talking about how the soft tissues guide the development of the hard tissues, then we want to think about what the tongue, lips, cheeks are doing in utero, which around 3 months, like when you're 3 months pregnant, that's about when this stuff is starting to happen. And so for the next 6 months, baby's trying to figure out how everything works so that when they come out, they can eat, which is, as far as they know, their only job. to breastfeed. And so, the most obvious would be a tongue tie. If the process by which the tongue tie that we all have when our moms are about 3 months pregnant with us gets destroyed, the tissue under the tongue gets destroyed, and then we start learning how to use that good wave motion and learn to keep that tongue pressed up against the roof of the mouth where we get the nice, wide, flat palate. So if the tongue is down and not doing those things, then the other soft tissues are going to kind of overpower, and we get kind of that inward, cheeks squeezing inward, lips squeezing back, and that's where we get more of a high palate. So, now baby comes out with a tongue tie and a high palate, and not only can they not lift their tongue all the way as high as they should be able to, the palate's even higher up. So that causes a lot of complications.
So as a mother, what should I be looking at? And if you guys see me, or if you see me in Facebook, they can't see me. Look into the site I am sharing. We're on Facebook here, so I'm sharing and seeing if there's any questions on Facebook. And anybody on Clubhouse, if you guys have any questions, just message Angela, please. She will answer you guys right here on Clubhouse. So as a mother, what are some of the things that I should be looking for after my child is born that would maybe signal that there's an issue?
Yeah, so, breastfeeding shouldn't hurt, right? I was extremely well prepared, went to tons of classes, breastfed all 3 of my kids. It still hurt at the beginning because I just didn't have a great latch. As much as you can learn when it's yourself doing it, you're overwhelmed, you're in mom mode. Even if you are a lactation consultant, you're looking at different things and you're feeling different emotions. So, you should give yourself a little bit of time. How much time? A couple of days, maybe a week, at the far end, maybe 2 weeks. If you're still having pain or trouble with breastfeeding, then there's a problem. I wish that everyone had access to high quality lactation care right away. But, all of those things that are ideal, it doesn't mean that that's reality and that's what's going to happen. Especially here in Las Vegas, we have a lot of nurses who are put through some lactation training simply to have that as something that the hospital can say they have. Doesn't mean that person is passionate about it or really cares about it. And so you hear that constant, like, latch looks great. Meanwhile, mom's like, but it hurts, or why does my baby still act hungry? Or why are you telling me I have to give baby a bottle with formula here in the hospital? So I think a lot of it comes down to really, part of it is preparation, kind of knowing breastfeeding should work, and if it's not working, there's a problem, and that there are resources for you to find. You just might have to advocate for yourself. But sorry, I forgot what I was saying.
No, you're fine. I was going to add that over here in Savannah, I did an internship with the lactation consultants in the hospital because I'm a huge breastfeeding advocate. I've thought about getting my MCLC. I've taken courses and classes, but I haven't. In Georgia, you have to retake when they told me you have to retake the boards every 10 years, I'm like, no, thank you for the license. So, but anyways, I did an internship here with some amazing lactation consultants and IBCLCs over there. We have an IBC or an LC from Orlando over here saying hello, Kristen. Hello, Kristen. While I was there, this huge hospital was being sold to a big corporation. And as soon as they purchased, they let go most of all the lactation consultants and had the nurses kind of do what they're supposed to be doing. And it's such a big problem. You cannot have, I'm going to give an example in the dental office over here. You can't have an assistant clean. Whenever your assistant misses and you have the hygienist go help with assisting the dentist, you guys know how awful that is. We are not good at assisting at all. Most of us are not. So it's kind of like the same thing, all of us have a specific training, and it's so important for us to collaborate and to work together, and to really listen to what the other person is looking, because we all see these patients differently. And this goes right into the next question that we have for you, which is about your interdisciplinary team. You have a group that includes IBCLC, LNT, OMT. What does each discipline get involved, or when does each discipline get involved, and how do you see their role in supporting your work?
So, one of the first things I learned was that body work should be something that we pay attention to with tongue ties. And as a dentist, that was the most obscure, confusing term that I had ever heard. I didn't know what that meant and how you apply that, or even how it all fit together. So, I really took it upon myself to continue looking into that area. And I think, especially in dentistry, we're so focused on teeth, drilling, cavities, the micro, not really paying attention to the rest of the body. And so the more I started learning about body work, it was this, crash of re-understanding that the body works together, and that you can't just focus on one area if you want full body health. And again, I think when I had this opportunity to start kind of learning something new, I thought, well, why shouldn't I go full out and learn all these little bits and pieces to really understand it and to see if it's something that I wanted, to do. So when I started Smart Mouth, I didn't want to do it without the body work part of it. Before I was, Smart Mouth, when I was still doing dentistry, just kind of doing some infant frenectomies here and there. Obviously, I encouraged, suggested, begged my patients, see a chiropractor, massage therapist, occupational therapist, physical therapist. I don't care. Do something with movement and body, right? And they almost never did. Unless it was something they were already doing, because it was something they already believed in, they just weren't going to do it. So if I wanted to kind of create a gold standard and be really, strict about the plan, then I realized I had to include it. And so then finding that person was, of course, the next challenge, because you need someone who understands tongue ties. You need someone who can work with infants, and you need someone who knows multiple modalities, because not every baby needs the same thing. And so, as with almost every single person in my practice, I lucked out. They kind of fell into my world. And so I'm super grateful for that. But Jennifer is our massage therapist. She's incredible, baby whisperer. And she's, again, like everyone else in our practice, very committed to continuing to learn. No one in my practice thinks they know it all. We all know we know less. The more we know, the less we feel like we know, for sure. Exactly. So then I also have an IBCLC in my practice. She works with every infant. After talking to dentists over the years who are doing a lot with tongue ties, and everybody has their own version of this practice, one of the big concerns providers have is stepping on the toes of people in the community. And so the way we incorporate it is we have this, plan, body work, procedure, time with the IBCLC. 2 days later, you have another, 30-minute session with the IBCLC. A week later, you have another session of body work, a check with me. 4 weeks later, another check with me. So we're not replacing your chiropractor. We're not replacing your lactation consultant. Of course, there are people who choose to see my team for those roles, but we want to leave it open so that you work with people you're comfortable with. And we're very clear about that. Work with whoever you're comfortable with, just work with someone, right?
Exactly. I'm so glad that you do you have decided to offer some of that inside your practice, because I remember not long ago when we had a baby, probably weeks apart, me and you. That's why I
Yeah.
remember with you so much, because we were going through the same thing at the same time, but you had no idea who I was. I was just, yeah, Dr. Tara. But anyways, it's so helpful to have somebody in one practice, because I had a really hard time with the second one. I couldn't leave the house. The best tongue tie or frenectomy provider around me is 2 hours away. I couldn't even get out of the house to drive to get it done. We did do some the IBCLC. Thankfully, my friend, she's wonderful. She came over to my house and helped us a lot. And then we did go to some CST, craniosacral therapy sessions, also with the wonderful Gail here locally to us. But it was very difficult, and having everybody in one office that you just know that you have all the support and everything that you need right there.
Yeah.
You have their eyes and their experience. But anyways, that is fantastic. And I just want to say that I think we have the biggest and largest number of people right now watching in all three of our so that is super cool. I'm gonna count right now and I'll tell you guys how many people we had. We had almost 80 on Clubhouse alone this Tuesday with Dr. David Page, all about vitamin D deficiency. It was fantastic. If you guys have not watched that or listened to that, go back. It's in our website, airway-circle.com. Just go on the members section, and Clubhouse, it's on there. All of our Clubhouses and Zooms are on there for you guys to watch. If you're a member, there's a separate section. Angela, go for it.
Hi, yeah, I'm the other Renata. I'm getting an echo in my ear. I'm going to take out these things. Can you hear an echo?
No.
Hold on. Okay, I'm going to put these back in. Audio issues. Parents always want to know what to expect during the initial consultation. Can you walk us through it? And do all of your team members meet the families early on?
So that, again, is an alternative way to kind of model this plan. I wish I could make that work here. I couldn't find a way because I do free consultations. I'm working with a population where almost everyone has insurance, and I'm a fee-for-service office. So in a lot of ways, I have to figure out what works for that, because I know that they're going to pay everything out of pocket. So and it's one of the reasons I did pursue my IBCLC, because I'm doing the intake. I'm doing kind of the triaging of what I think patients need. So when they come for the consultation, I actually recently started a program where I have made videos of the things that I say at every single consultation. And so we email those to the patients when they schedule. We ask them to watch them before they come in. And it's been kind of game changing, because now my 15-minute consultation can be 100% about that baby and that dyad and that family. We don't have to spend time answering the same generic aftercare questions that I normally go over, because the education part of this is really, really important to me. And that's what sets my practice apart from the dentist who just does frenectomies. We spend a lot of time with our patients educating. So here, like I said, they watch the videos, they come in, they get 15 minutes with me, and I try to answer every single question they have. I also give my patients, or our phone number of our office can text, and I get those texts. And so I tell every consult I have that if you have additional questions, just reach out to us. I mean, I want to make sure that you're comfortable with this whole process. I do not do same-day procedures, because partly I have that luxury because Las Vegas is really not that big tip to tip. And so if you need to drive another 30 minutes, in a couple of days to come back, I think that way outweighs that benefit of having time to think about it and having time to do a little bit more reading and understanding, and even working with the baby and doing some pre-op exercises and movements. I see a great benefit to that. Occasionally, the more I do this, I get people from out of town. I try really hard to do a consult with them either over the phone or over Zoom. Obviously, I can't check the baby during that, but I can still answer their questions, kind of get the feel for the story. In almost every case from out of town, they're also seeing a lactation consultant there or a speech therapist, and I reach out to them as well and kind of get feedback there. So I really put a lot of energy into trying to do that collaborative, care, so that we really get the full picture of what's going on.
It's amazing. I think it's Dr. Jim saying, wow, me too. I'm still struggling with body work. I work with lactation consultants, speech therapists. Love this. So she's loving what you're saying. We love you, Jim. Guys, we have over 60 people listening to us live right now. That's the most we've ever had, Dr. Tara. So.
Awesome.
So you mentioned already a little bit about not doing tongue-tie releases on the spot. If patients are coming in for prep work, so do they come to your office for prep work, or do you recommend them seeing somebody else? Massage, myofascial release, or CST?
So again, I have my list of local resources, people that I've vetted and trust, and I will give them ideas based on what part of town they live in. Maybe some take insurance, some don't. Some choose to come here, some choose to go elsewhere. The one thing I don't have in my practice, and again, it's waiting until that person exists, or that I can coerce someone to become that person for me, is the speech therapist or occupational therapist who specializes in infants. And there aren't very many here, but I use them like crazy. And it's funny, I recently heard from a couple of providers who they're like, that doesn't even exist in my area. I don't know what that is or how to use that or even how to find that person. And I know we all find our own groove and what works for us, but I just couldn't do it without them. Every baby over 3 months old, I'd say 99% of baby over 3 months old gets sent out to the oral motor specialist before I'll treat them. 2 to 3 months is a huge percentage as well, because that's when I see the baby really just get set in their ways. And what I explain to every parent is what I do, cutting the tongue tie doesn't change the way they use their tongue, right? That's on baby. They have to change that function. That's the only way we're going to see improvements. And so if I go to do a suck assessment on a 2-month-old and they won't suck my finger at all, or they're very disorganized and just kind of chewing or moving my finger around, cutting a tongue tie isn't going to teach them how to do that. And so I'll refer out to that therapist, and then I rely on them to tell me when they think baby is ready. But then in terms of lactation and body work, again, we give them our resource lists and say, find someone who resonates with you and go from there.
It's so important. And for anybody listening to this, if you believe your child has a tongue tie, or if you're pregnant right now and you're going to maybe encounter that in the future, please seek your team. Go ahead and get an appointment with an IBCLC now. And put your team together before you are, faced with challenging decisions when you're halfway there. Because after you have your child, at least I know that I didn't know what the heck was going on. But anyways, what are the criteria for releasing buccal ties? And how often have you seen it result in an immediate improvement in function?
So I actually just noticed that Michelle Emanuel is on here, and I just have to give her a shout out because she greatly inspired almost everything about my practice that isn't procedural or, technical, surgical. And she's actually the one who taught me about buccal ties as well. And at first it was kind of like, I've never even heard of that. I'm not sure. That seems like a lot. Do I really have to do that? How do I learn more? And when I hear someone say, like, look, I've seen this be life-changing, you got to just kind of put on your pants and try it and see if it works for you. It's like, okay, let's try it. And I'll never forget, the first couple of times I did it, just really, I'm paying attention, trying to notice differences. And I see the whole baby's face relax because there was so much tension here. I actually call them little staples when they're really tight because they really contribute to the inability to open wide sometimes. So, I do all of my releases on the same day. I focus on the tongue tie. I get people in who want or are curious about a lip tie, right? Basically, that always turns into an educational session about how baby also has a tongue tie if they actually have a lip tie. So I'm never just doing buckles. So that's a harder question to answer. But I do know that when they are tight enough, in my opinion, to warrant release, things tend to go really well. The things that I pay attention to for buckles are how low they attach to the gum line, for one, and then just how tight it feels. I mean, I've seen both kinds. I've seen super tight ones that don't come all the way down. I've seen ones that come all the way down and you can pull the cheeks out crazy. So it's just a judgment call based on
muscles and what's going on with that.
I do. And again, some of this stuff, I don't have a textbook. It's more just clinical experience, but I have seen quite a few babies where I diagnosed a buccal tie. They schedule the procedure. They have their session with Jennifer. I get them back in the procedure room and I go, wait, where are the buccal ties? And so I really encourage, when I feel tension in there, for parents to kind of do intraoral massage and work with it, because I do think that buccal ties are a slightly different creature than lip and tongue ties, and body work can absolutely, just like we do see body work improve the appearance or the range of motion of lip and tongue ties. Doesn't fix it, of course, but I have seen it do it enough for a buccal tie that I don't feel like it's warranted to release it.
That is amazing. Angela, you there? Can you hear us?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thanks. I'm having some audio issues over here. I have a question for you. In what cases might it be more appropriate to wait and release infants' ties?
Yeah, so that's a huge range of situations. It's probably easier to just describe when I think they are ready, which is they are demonstrating to the best of what seems like their ability to actually use what they've got. So they're motivated, they've got some strength, you do a suck assessment and they're going for it. That's, to me, like a really good sign. There are other things you're going to look for and listen for. Like if you ever hear a mom say there's more pain on one side than the other, then that is almost always kind of a torticollis issue. And so I really want to encourage baby and parents to address that before we treat the tie. If baby is super chompy, super tight, can barely open their mouth, these are usually the moms that are having a lot of pain. That's a hard one, because if you leave a mom in pain without a plan or a solution, then they might not continue to breastfeed. But what I saw over and over before that kind of clicked for me was those tight, chompy babies, you release their tie and they continue to be tight, chompy babies. And so what does it matter that I release the tie and that they can use their tongue more, because their jaws are dictating, what the tongue can and cannot do. And so those parents, I talk a lot about facial massage, jaw work, strengthening and relaxing. It's just such an individual case-by-case basis of helping these families decide what should happen next. And I can't always be right. And that's, sometimes I make the wrong call and I think baby's ready and they're not. Or I'm sure it's happened where baby was ready and I just didn't think they were. And so I sent them off for therapy and they probably would have benefited from getting a release then. So the more I do it, the more things I notice, the better I get at, triaging. But that body work, man, babies need that. I like to say that, back when we lived in villages, the midwife delivered the baby and they probably did some body work on baby right away. Like that was part of kind of the birth experience. And I knew enough to take my baby to a chiropractor. But again, 9 years ago, that was the extent of my knowledge about body work. And after meeting Jennifer and my third baby was born and she came to my house the day I came home and, did some craniosacral on my baby. And that was amazing. That you watched the baby just kind of unwind and you're like, oh, that's what babies need. They just went through this traumatic process of squeezing through a little hole. So
I think that's amazing. I think that's just so wonderful. And we all have such interesting personal stories, so many stories that we can all share. I love it. I want to ask about your massage therapist. Do you have all of your team members, including the massage therapist, in the room with you as the procedure is being performed?
No. And we only actually work 3 days a week. That's kind of all demand is here. And so we have to make it work that we can squeeze everything in properly to those 3 days with the whole protocol. And so when I'm doing a procedure, Jennifer's usually doing the body work for the next procedure. And, Allura just got finished she's my IBCLC. She just got finished, working with the previous procedure and now she's ready. So generally the IBCLC is in the room with me simply because we need her to be available as soon as I'm done to be with those parents. And then I have either 1 or 2 assistants. We definitely played around with that when we first met Jennifer, but it's so fast. I have baby less than 5 minutes, usually more like 3. The actual cutting procedure time is less than 30 seconds. The pre and post photos take longer than the procedure itself. And I want to get baby back in mom's or dad's arms as quickly as possible. So it just worked out better for them to get a real calm, solid 30 minutes with the body worker before I do the procedure.
I love it. So how about the parents? Are the parents in the room with you?
No. And that was a really, really hard one for me when I first started, because I'm coming from my mom, who was that lady who yelled at the dentist, don't you dare take my child back. There's no way you're doing a filling on my child without me sitting there. And when I was doing general dentistry on kids, I always let the parents back because I had that, my mom kind of whispering in my ear, remembering that. But when I started learning how to do frenectomies, kind of the same thing I heard over and over from the experts was, don't let parents back, because they're unpredictable and you can't manage your procedure well with parents in the room. There are times, like if mom or dad is a professional, and they have experience doing kind of surgery or traumatic things like birth, then I'll let them back. And there have been a few parents here and there who they say all the right things. I'll sit in the corner. I won't say a word. You won't even know I'm there. I'll be so quiet. It's happened. But for the most part, I am doing a surgery. I'm shooting a laser at your baby's mouth. And I want to be 100% focused on that so that I do a good job. I don't want to have to. I'm also a very sensory audio person. And so I get distracted really easily. And that's a personal thing. I can't have someone in there who's not going to kind of follow the rules for what I need to do a good surgery. So
the energy, baby can sense their parents' energy.
That's a good point, and it's true. I do, which I'm sure I also learned from Michelle Emmanuel, the magical bounce baby up and down. Parents think I'm magical because they're in the waiting room, baby's crying because they're hungry. I take baby, start bouncing them, baby stops crying. I walk away with a nice quiet baby. I do the procedure. I come back with a nice quiet baby. I lay baby in parents' arms, baby starts crying, and it's like, oh, baby wants to tell you all about it. And part of it is I stopped bouncing them. They want to keep bouncing. Part of it is I was calm. Parents are anxious. It's hard. So definitely the calmer we can keep the room, the better.
The procedure and overall. Sarah, your neighbor, is saying, just want to shout out to Dr. Tara and saying we're so lucky to have her here in Las Vegas. She's a unicorn and the only dentist here who comes close to being airway trained for any age. The biggest compliment I can give her is to say she has no ego whatsoever and it's only here to learn and help. And it's genuine.
Sarah, thank you.
Okay, let me unmute this thing here. Here we go. Okay. For the myofunctional therapists in the room here with us, if we live in an area that is remote and we just don't have these types of medical professionals on hand, who can we reach out to more than, say, someone who we know? It's kind of difficult for me to ask this. It's in my brain and it doesn't want to come out. Who should we go to? Who should we help our patients? Who should we refer them to? If we have a chiropractor nearby, but no IBCLC, do we go ahead and would body work, a body professional, that type of person be able to help the myofunctional therapists more than, say, an ENT who is just completely unfamiliar with tongue ties and releases and that type of thing?
Yeah, so I've always been a big believer more in knowledge and education than titles per se. Obviously, we need someone who can, do what they know legally, but but just because you have a title doesn't mean you know that thing. And that's every profession, everywhere. And, there's no such thing called a tongue tie specialist. There's nothing that I can call myself to kind of delineate myself that I'm not a regular dentist. I know this stuff really well. And just because that guy has a laser and knows how to cut a frenum doesn't mean he's qualified, right? And so it really comes down to that. The thing that was the hardest for me especially being super introverted, like I'm going to, go home and like go to sleep after this because this was a lot of interaction. You have to talk to people. You have to reach out. You have to Google. I mean, I remember Googling myofascial release, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm typing. And then you get some things and you're like reading people's websites and you're like, do you know babies? Do you know anything? And so you send them an email and you go, hi, I don't know anything about what you do. Can you explain it to me? Do you see babies? It's a lot of work. If they didn't have a website or an email, I probably missed them because I don't make phone calls. That's one of my weaknesses. But you have to just find a way to make it work. And then when I meet people who, like a massage therapist, but they've never worked with babies or they don't know anything about tongue ties, there were times that I said, hey, I'd like to sponsor you to take, the gold tongue tie training. Or have you ever heard of this class? Would you be interested in that? You should really look into that. And so in order to build all this from scratch, I feel like I had to learn a lot about everything in order to help guide others. But it's not that I want to do those things. I want other people to do those things. I recently heard about a provider who like sees baby one time and she has this massive team who does all of the pre and post stuff. And I'm like, wow, that sounds awesome. I work way too hard, but it's just what I have available to me. And it's the way finances are in Las Vegas and it's the way insurance is. And you just kind of have to work with what you've got. 2 years ago, I went and learned ALF expansion from Dr. Derek Nordstrom. And he, if you know one thing about it, it's you work with an osteopath. Well, most people don't have a cranial osteopath in their areas. And so what do? You start calling chiropractors, you start calling craniosacral therapists, and you say, let's talk about this. So I think it's just hard. It's hard work. If you want to do this and you want to really incorporate everything, then you have to do the work yourself for your patients to make that team.
Wow, that is so true. It is everybody in this field. I keep saying industry. I don't like that word. I have to keep taking that out in this field of my vocabulary. It is a lot of work and there's a lot of fight back still out there, but we just appreciate so much you doctors, dentists and ENTs who are helping everybody else build the team and get us together for the better outcome of these procedures and our patients and their issues. Let's circle back around real quick while we wait to see if anybody has any questions. Clubhouse folks and Facebook guys, if y'all would like to post any questions, please do, or right here also. On Zoom, please just let us know if you have any questions. But really quickly, let's circle back around to your practice. Tell us a little bit more about your practice. How can people find you? And do you specifically only see babies right now? Do you see anybody else?
No, so about 3 years ago, I went and took all of the classes that Dr. Zaghi was offering. I came back from from the surgical course, and Allura volunteered her daughter to be my first functional frenuloplasty. That's how you know you've got a good team, when they will let you use their children as guinea pigs. And so I do all ages, any age. And we haven't talked about it yet, but I also have an oral myofunctional therapist in my office. And we're really strict about who she sees. If they have a speech issue, if they have a feeding issue, we're going to refer to SLP first. If they kind of graduate out of that, but they're still having oral facial issues, then we'll kind of bring them back in. So just like the rest of the team, people don't have to work with my team in order for me to treat them, but I definitely have the the therapists, the other members who I'm very comfortable with, and if they send a patient to me, I know that everything's going the way it should. And then when I get, a new name in town, it's like, okay, well, now I have to do the hard work of reaching out and saying, let's talk about this case. What are you seeing? Do you know how to help them? After a procedure like this, do you want to come in and see how I do releases? Work that way. But, we do all ages, and I do have a myofunctional therapist. And so it's just nice because, like you said, there are lots and lots of people who just want to do it all in the same place. Mm-hmm. And you also, when you have, for a fact, I should hope that if you have a team, then you work well together, right? So,
if somebody might not need a release but still needs myofunctional therapy, can they still come to your office?
Yeah, absolutely, and we do that a lot too. I mean, the last thing you want to do is have a failed case. And so if you've got the parent bringing the kid and the kids kind of got their arms crossed and they're like, this is stupid, I don't want to do this, I'm not going to sign them up, I've had kids though who are interested and they're like, this thing is bothering me, I definitely want to fix it, but I don't know about that whole surgery thing. Like, I don't think that's for me. Great. The good news is myo comes first. So, everyone is a myo only case at first. I'm not making you pay for a procedure up front. You can always decide later whether or not you're going to go through with that. And we've had cases where the person's super gung-ho, like, this is what I want to do. I found you. I want to get this fixed. And when it comes time for the procedure, they change their mind, it's like, that's valid too. We don't want to do this procedure on someone who is not going to do the work to make it worth it.
And now for older children and adults, I know your myofunctional therapist is not here, but what are some of the goals that you were looking for? What are some of the requirements that you were looking for before a release in terms of tongue strength or tone, or what can they do, what they can't do? What is your
goal? So I think similar with babies, it's going to be this judgment of, are you doing the most that you can do? Can we get more strength in there or more range of motion even with that restriction? Or is that literally as good as you can get? There's everyone's favorite tongue suction, right? Like, we want tongue to spot. We want to see how high you can suction. I want to see how long you can hold that suction. Are you bringing in all of these compensations, or can you do it comfortably and easily? I mean, that if you can't do that, you're not ready. Something in the last year or two that I've done more and more is, in a very forward tie, I do a snip. Because if you can't even move your tongue at all, how are you going to do myo first?
Yes.
And so, it's funny that I do it too. I villainize snips all the time, but there's a time and place for it. I had a special needs 21-year-old woman with Down syndrome. She's not very verbal. She's not very, her dad said she doesn't even really like to talk. She'll answer your questions, but she's not going to go out of her way to talk. That's probably not a good case for a full release. I mean, what are we going to, they said she had a sleep study and she was fine. I mean, you kind of have to meet people where they're at. And so I recommended a snip for something like that, because she has some clarity issues. If she had more range of motion in the front of her tongue, maybe it would help, but it really comes down to, what are your goals? And I also, I tell adults all the time, I don't think you should do this. What are you trying to accomplish? Are you oh, I learned that if you put your tongue up, you have big, beautiful jaws. Okay, well, me cutting your tongue tie at 45 years old is not going to do that. You know, you can't even get your tongue up in your super high, narrow palate. Like, let me refer you to someone who can make some space first. And they're like, well, I don't want to do all that. Well, then, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know what you think this will accomplish. Because I know there's that side of the tongue tie world where some people think it's the end all be all, is going to solve every problem, you know, but you really have to take into account what your goals are and what's even possible. Adults are really unpredictable in terms of what success they have.
Very unpredictable, more than babies. That is true. Oh my goodness, we're getting lots of hearts. Thank you, thank you. Lots of hearts on Facebook. Thank you, guys. We have one of your patients here. And she says, I'm so lucky to be Dr. Tara's patient. We are doing myo and working on expansion in 1 day of release. Very good. We have a question from Danelle. Do you work with retained primitive reflexes to boost the functional success or see positive results from outside bodywork specialists retain primitive reflexes?
This is an area where I am super not knowledgeable about. I'm pretty sure I paid for a class. You know, I have this huge list of like courses I've signed up for and haven't quite gotten around to taking yet. Don't tell my husband.
Don't we all? I always say,
I'm pretty sure I have some like not a book, but like a workbook that I bought because I was totally going to go through it with my own kids. And, you know, it's like there is so much to learn. And that is an area where I'm just super weak, but it's on the list, you know.
Definitely.
Sorry.
Fantastic. Guys, any more questions? We have some comments. Thanks everybody for commenting and for sharing this. How does your schedule roll? Somebody said. Working with a lactation consultant and body, I like to call it body professional. Learned that with Cynthia Peterson, not body worker. Body professional before and after release. I think that we talked about that already.
Well, I mean, in case anyone doesn't know, like I don't do any regular dentistry. So, you know, when I started Smart Mouth, I completely stopped doing restorative dentistry. It started with just infant frenectomies. Then I added in kids and adults, added in myo. And then now I do expansion in certain situations. I really prefer to work with the little kids, like 3 and 4 year olds, when we still have so much growth to work with. But yeah, I mean, in my classes, I always put a picture of what we still use like a Google spreadsheet to schedule because it's so complicated. I mean, you have me, lactation, bodywork, and myofunctional kind of all working out of the same space at the same time. And so it's this crazy, like first they see me, then they see them, then they come back over here. And so personally, I have one column. I mean, every 15 minutes is a patient for me. I don't have multiple columns. And that is the benefit for being a fee for service practice, is I can make it be whatever I want it to be. And that's what I think works best. And, you know, for me.
Fantastic. Oh my goodness, this hour has gone by so quickly. I feel like we could still stay here and chatting. This has been wonderful. Dr. Tara, thank you so much for sharing and spending this last hour with us.
I remembered what I was going to say early on when my brain went spazzy. You know, I was saying I would love for parents to be prepared, you know, take a class, read a book, I don't know. But to feel empowered is really, you know, the most important part, is to know that you are everything your baby needs and it can work. And to feel that confidence that maybe you just need to ask someone for help. I just can't tell you how many times I get parents who say, you know, I really wanted to do it this way, but I couldn't. And it always comes down to like they just didn't think it would work for them, or they, oh, well, it just didn't work for me. And, with rare exception, we all kind of have the same system going on, and it works. And so you just have to troubleshoot. I mean, it's just like if I bought a computer and you bought a computer and I plugged mine in and it worked, and you plugged yours in and it didn't work. It's not, it's not like you just throw the computer away, right? You just need to call the right support person to guide you through it. So
that's a great metaphor. Do not throw your children away, please. Guys, this week we have on Tuesday, I think it's going to be Dr. Depeche. So come join us with Dr. Depeche on Tuesday. And on Thursday, we have Dr. Bill Harrell is going to come back and do his part 2 on Zoom. We had so much fun last time. He's going to come finish his presentation with us. Our membership is exploding. Thanks for everybody who's trusting us and joining us in all of our meetings and our courses. So thank you. And if you're not a member yet and you're interested, please just go to the website, airway-circle.com, click on members and join now and become part of our Airway Circle. And I think this is all I have for tonight. Angela, do you have anything? All right, thanks everybody on Clubhouse. Do you guys want to say anything? You're welcome to come on, unmute yourself. I think everybody's good. Dr. Tara, thank you. And I know that this is not the last time that we're going to be chatting and collaborating, so I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, good night.
Bye.